The last thing I leave you with is a potential positive scenario, which is actually very internal. And that has to do with civil society. Because across every one of those countries, not the whole Arab world, for example, Libya is different for different reasons, but certainly in Egypt, much certainly in Tunisia, to some extent in Jordan or Morocco, you have had real growth in the middle class. Yes, poverty has increased in these countries over the past 30 or 40 years, but so has the middle class as well. Of course, middle class here defined not by European standards, but by the standards of the emerging countries. If you look at the private sector and the role the private sector has employed or has done right now, massive growth. In Egypt, for the first time since 1950, the private sector now is the largest employer. That means that wide segments of the people are not dependent on the economy, on the government for their own livelihood. They feel economically independent. Education, despite the fact that it is horrible, unfortunately, across the Arab world, certainly in Egypt, but the private sector is investing significantly in schools and universities right now. Labor movements, professional syndicates, massive dynamism over the past 10 years. And I would argue one of the reasons the Egyptian revolution succeeded this year was the massive momentum given by the labor movement, especially in the second week of the revolution. Even art, cinema. Egyptian cinema, for example, which is the Hollywood of the Arab world, as they used to say, has been in a very low state throughout the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. New generations now of cinema filmmakers, writers, literature, music even. So even culture and art has witnessed, I would say, a revolution over the past 10 years. And again, it has to do with demographics, new ideas coming, youth coming. And that is challenging the old norms, the old ideas. All of this dynamism strengthens, in my view, the middle class in its, again, middle class by Arab standards, by emerging market standards, not by your standards. If that continues, I think we do have a chance of the middle class becomes independent, have a stake in the game, as the Americans say, and effectively take its destiny in its own hand. And in this case, they would never let it go. Not to hardline religious groups, and not to any military establishment. And I think this is potentially the positive scenario for not only Egypt, but I would argue for different parts of the Arab world. Anyway, I hope it wasn't too long, and I know that we all wait for the main course, but hopefully it would raise some questions, and then we can discuss that as well. Thank you very much.